Welcome to the Standards Michigan weekly focused teleconference, where the door is open to discuss the week's work, but also expand upon the underlying philosophy and strategy that guides that work. Just as the pace of the world's economies are quickening and expanding, so are the processes that govern business and technical standards development that makes global trade and system interoperability possible. As S. Joe Bhatia, CEO and President of ANSI, reminded us in his address to the NASDAQ, a video clip is attached to today's blog page. 80% of all global product trade depends upon the consensus documents produced by national consensus bodies like the American National Standards Institute. That 80% is about the size of the entire U.S. gross domestic product of $18 trillion. Our work is focused on strengthening the voice of the user interest, the end market stakeholder, or as we like to say, the user owner final fiduciary. In the education facilities industry, the end market stakeholder works to guarantee a safe and sustainable environment. This sets the stage for the opportunities the education industry provides for our nation's college students, the faculty the facilities that our faculty uses to carry out their research, as well as being the setting for healthcare delivery, athletic events, and ultimately a central element in state and local brand identity. We estimate that of the $300 billion the education industry spends on building construction, operations and maintenance, energy and safety, over half is governed by the business and technical standards accredited by ANSI. We have explained on our Standards Michigan website that apart from what the University of Michigan started 20 years ago, most of the education facilities industry is not very active in the development of business and technical standards. Any regulatory advocacy capability has been directed towards curriculum, state appropriations, and other relationships with government. Business and technical standards advocacy requires a more multidimensional skill set. Having ANSI help us tell the story about what successful regulatory advocacy looks like in business and technical standards has been very helpful. Our websites explain in detail how just this year we catalyzed the creation of 2 new ANSI accredited standards developers, the Simon Institute and APA, Leadership in Education. For more on this subject, I will be turning the call over to Mike Anthony. But first, I'd like to welcome our calling guests, Dennis Johnson with the University of Michigan, and Mike Toner, our multimedia consultant in LA. Mike?
Thanks very much, Christine. So welcome, everyone. This will be generally a primer to the visit that Joe Bhatia will have at the University of Michigan in September 25th, I believe. Our point here is to help more fully dimension the understanding of why we might want ANSI to come to our campus to explain to the leadership of the education industry. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is one of our websites, what we call it our C-Seat website. It's actually our very first website where we try to convey the fact that, first of all, ideas matter, that we deal with specifics from the ground up. And when you add those at a rate, and when you manage those specifics at a very high rate, that you can really add value to both the top and bottom lines of your enterprise and your industry. So we like to focus on ideas, but this is the broader overview. What we also like to do is to work at a little higher, at a faster rate by working with Twitter. So you'll see another site here where we try to we look elsewhere within the industry at what other facility services organizations are doing within the education industry. And I think you get a sense of this. I encourage those of you who seem to view these after we post them, that this is a place where you want to be. You can see what your colleagues are doing. I don't know if there's any other place other than, say, maybe American School or University that's actually doing it this way, at least using social media this way. So I encourage others to get there. So let's get to Joe, shall we? Here is the webpage for this teleconference, and I am just going to let Joe tell the story in his own words, and I may have a few comments. And Christine and Mike and Dennis, you're welcome to ask questions also. So let's listen to Joe.
Standards and conformity assessment play a critical role in the economy, impacting more than 80% of the global product trade. That is roughly $13.5 trillion in 2008 alone. Simply put, standards and conformance boost business. When used effectively, they can build consumer confidence and restore trust, attract and retain customers, provide cost savings and increase efficiencies, and facilitate trade, enabling companies to survive, grow, and thrive.
When I actually had most of my comments on the, starting with up here. Now, just so you know, these are from last year's presentation when Joe came to the Ross Business School, and he went into some detail. Spent about a couple hours with us, actually, and he'll spend another 2 hours with us on September 25th, and probably he's going to be changing the presentation a little bit, but I thought I'd let you see what he's said here, and I do have some comments on each of these clips.
Now, the U.S. standardization system is really a very interesting dynamic because it's a public-private partnership. It's not a top-down system as it exists in most of the countries in the world, especially the developing or the smaller countries, especially the countries that are not industrially engaged or very advanced in their infrastructure for private sector lean. So in our system, we, for the most part, lead the standardization process through the private sector, but government is a very active and willing partner. And there are rules and laws that guide that behavior. And the behavior is guided by National Technology Transfer and Advancement Act, and that NTTAA has been in effect for about 20 years. It basically directs all the federal agencies to rely on private sector processes as much as possible. Of course, they have the ultimate right to develop a document or a regulation if they choose to do that, but their first priority is to look to the private sector to see if they can find a standardization solution, a conformity assessment and compliance solution, and if they cannot, then they have to rationalize why they are going to go through an initiative of their own. And this saves our economy, our country, hundreds of billions of dollars, and it has over the years. It avoids duplication of effort, and it allows the agencies to really carry out their mission without investing repetitive funds and securing technical expertise that they can't possibly assemble in all areas that they're responsible for. So I was telling somebody that the private sector enjoys the benefit of government engagement. There are about 5,000 or more government employees who participate in over 500 standards developing committees. That was data about a couple of years ago. I don't know what the number is. It's probably as good, if not higher, today. So that has always worked well for us.
So just a couple thoughts on that one. One, he mentioned the developing countries. Of course, you would obviously think Africa. Africa is an area of interest for a lot of interest groups. There's a lot of resources there. And in order to capture, the advantage of those resources, you're going to need roads, you're going to need communication, you're going to need water and sewer, you've got to house a population and create a middle class, and you're going to need an infrastructure to create a middle class in Africa. So that's why there's so much interest in there. And very often you do have to start in those early nascent economies. You likely do have to start from the top down. So that's just one observation about developing countries and why they're configured, how idea flow is configured differently. Now, and along those lines too, and I'm going to borrow a little bit from Andy Updegrove. By the way, it was a deliberate act of mine to make sure that everybody knew. Let's see if I can get over here. Where are we? To let others know about the time Andy Updegrove spent with us. When was it? It was a couple weeks ago, and Christine reposted this. When you look at this one, I encourage our listeners today to listen to what Andy had to say. This is about an hour, maybe hour and a 15-minute clip, if I recall. But he says what we've effectively done is we've created a shadow government in business and technical standards. Remember, this is different than other types of standards that have to do with some of the political wealth redistribution, all that kind of softer stuff. Business and technical standards are different, and of course we made the point that the reason the education facilities industry has not had business and technical standards advocacy. Most of the regulatory resources have been devoted to issues like curriculum and such and so forth. But anyway, long story short, Andy makes the point that the National Technology Transfer and Advancement Act is one that essentially mimics or creates a shadow government for the leading practice discovery in business and technical standards. So I encourage others to have a look at that. So let's let Joe continue.
Not a good understanding of what standardization is all about. People don't pay attention to this process. They don't understand it. And the higher you go in an organization, less understanding there is. So if you talk to the CEOs or the C-suite executives, they don't have any focus on this subject unless and until there's a major economic ramification. Either a big order was lost or there's a lawsuit, then it becomes an issue of focus. So we have launched, if you will, a program called Standards Boost Business. This is a campaign run by ANSI, but not singularly. We have 30 partner organizations. Some of them are members. That one or two might even be here. I think they are involved. And what we're trying to do is educate and inform high-level policy people, both at the private sector level, and it may also happen in the academic level, because we need to inform the senior people here. And we are basically conveying the message that standards are important to you, because they impact not only your objectives and your mission, but they also impact your bottom line. And I go and talk to the boards of various organizations. I'll be glad to come and talk to the senior executives here. Somebody suggested, I think you did, that I should come and talk to the CFOs of various universities, because they're the ones who are controlling the purse strings. You guys are fortunate in Michigan. Perhaps you have the resources which you are allowed to spend on investing in this area, but some of them don't. So I think the program that we have, Standards Boost Business, is going to be a program that will be successful only if the policymakers at the highest level and the CEOs and the C-suite executives understand that they need to continue to make commitment to the standardization activities, because it does affect their bottom line.
Okay, so my thoughts on what Joe just had to say. First of all, he's referring to Rich Robin offside. This was at the business school last year, and he was referring to a suggestion that Rich had about ANSI explaining to the C-suite, to the CFOs, how to use this law to manage costs. And of course, we argue also that there's top line opportunities here, but that's a different teleconference. So that's what Joe's referring to there. He's also referring to the difficulty that we have had explaining even to the what I'll call middle management about how you might want to release resources to get your subject matter experts to the meetings, and frankly, to help them sustain ideas through a very long period of time. And then finally, I guess another more sensitive issues to bring up is that in private industry, when you miss an opportunity, and when profits are at stake and public, investor money is at stake, missed opportunities are noticed and frequently punished. The public sector may not have it's either a luxury or an oversight, but the public sector can miss opportunities frequently with impunity, and where that's not the case in private industry. Very, very shortly, your competitor knows what's going on. I thought Christine and I had some discussions about what's going on with some other competitor nations. Now, whether or not China is a competitor nation, I don't know. Good people will disagree on that. So we certainly have to collaborate them on other areas. And of course, we want a healthy market there. But I don't hope I'm not putting you on the spot, Christine, when I say that we've had some discussions over the past couple of weeks about the presence of the Chinese youth and learning early on about these standardization processes. Are you comfortable enough with your knowledge to be able to comment on that, on the Chinese situation?
Well, sure. Basically, what it looks like, according to the information that I've been able to find, is that China is a leader in standards education at their universities. So we recently heard from former President Jim Duderstadt from the University of Michigan that China is actively creating more universities to educate their students. And not only that, but they have approximately 30 universities that have vibrant standards education curriculum. So it appears that they are a leader in standards education in the world. And in conjunction with that, they also hold the largest number of memberships of technical committees at the ISO. So it would appear that China is taking leadership not only on the standards technical expert side of things, but also growing those, educating those technical experts in their universities as well.
Thanks very much. Yes, Christine will probably be expanding on that in a dedicated weekly update, probably before Joe gets here, because that sets the stage for some other ideas. I also want others to know, because I know that the Chinese actually access these video clips, that we prefaced last week's discussion was about collaboration and competition, whether it's a collaboration competition within an industry, within an organization, or even among nations. The problems of the world are too big for any one organization, industry, or even nation to solve, and so you have to collaborate even as you compete. So this is an intention to be respectful of the Chinese. But what is remarkable is that they have, as part of its curriculum, that standards education is important. And I know here at the engine school, there's one class that all engineering students have to take. I believe it's still the material science class, which seems to unify all of the various different disciplines within the College of Engineering. I would argue, having been through that curriculum, that standards education and understanding the processes is both a legal, political, and economic lesson. And it does require a rather remarkable multidimensional skill set, which obviously other nations understand. So I'll only mention that that's something that our education system would look at, because once you've been through a semester of standards, understanding all the fine points, you have had a clinic in international politics, economics, and law. Let's continue, shall we?
Academic community is very, very much underrepresented at the standardization table, because the standardization process is based on engagement of all affected constituencies. For the footprint that you have economically and in terms of engagement of the standards, if you will, through which your business is conducted, is so critical, because it affects your efficiency, it affects the way you do business, it affects the way you achieve your cost-saving objectives. And if you're there, you have the ability to guide the direction of those dialogues and those solutions. And I think for that reason, it's very critical that you get more involved in standardization aspects too, because you'll also bring viewpoints that we haven't heard from. We do need to hear them.
So I'll only add to that just as politicians, well-meaning politicians, public servants that want to help use whatever talents and resources they have to advance the greater good, whether their idea is or it's a shared conception of the greater good, that it's not unusual to hear them say the public sector doesn't care about politics until things get really bad. There's always a continual lament about the lack of participation, even in elections. I think we're one of the nations that have the lowest voter turnouts, disproportionately. And so there's a lot of complaints. So in a way, if we say that standardization processes, business and technical standardization processes, are like a shadow government, then we should not be surprised if there is a scaled down, how shall I say, a scaled down disinterest in how this happens. That's apart from the fact that it's just difficult and it's fast and it's large. Any thoughts? Any thoughts on that, Christine, or others?
Well, yes, I think what is a challenge is that the work that needs to be done is done at the work point at a level that is it's intricate, it involves technical expertise, and there's also a need to travel at a higher level in conjunction with the lower level, and so it's hard to bring those two pieces together for the industry.
That's right. So yeah, we've been talking quite a bit lately about how you have to work at a very high level and low level. Our results occur at the low level meaning at the work point. We're quite keen, and I continue to try to make this point that ideas matter, and everybody in an organization like ours, from the most humble wire puller or pipe insulator or fire inspector, they all have experience in something they can add. How do we get those ideas up into a forum where they can be arbitrated? That's been our problem. We have had, as I say, considerable success with it, but it does, once again, present some political problems because the people working that are delivering value are at a certain level in our organization, and the people in charge of policy are at another level, and it's very difficult to reconcile those two. So, and on the other hand, it could be that difficult to be considered an opportunity. Certainly we feel that way. So that's basically it. That's a run through what Joe went through last year. We know that there'll be probably more refined discussion about what might be possible here. We're hoping that we will have a number of offsite participants. We will be, unlike last year, we will be permitting others to call in. Do you have any specifics on that, Christine? I know that maybe I'm preempting some of what you're going to talk about, but anything? We have an open invitation. Well, I believe we did change the room here. Is that right, Christine? Do we have a different room?
I haven't seen that. I thought we had the same room as last year,
Okay.
but it will be at the Ross Business School nonetheless, starting at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on September 25th, which is a Friday.
Okay, good. I believe it's going to be in the room just above this, basically the same room. It's just one floor up. So again, very nice facility there. So I think that's all I want to say. It's a Friday afternoon. It's a wonderful, wonderful weather out there today, and I think that I hope that people will find this helpful. You want to close us out, Christine, for the day?
Certainly. Is there any other closing reflections from our call-in guests?
Nope.
Okay, very good. So we just have a couple of items that I would like to share with everyone, and that is that we are transitioning to a new YouTube channel. Our first channel registered over 2,000 views over the past 14 months. So now it's time for us to archive the better productions and the ones with the most views. So we will be shortening the original channel and the expansion of the new, and then we'll be expanding the new channel. So we will likely leave the videos that are most popular and remove the videos that have received the fewest views. As always, you're welcome to comment on the playlist or comment on our blog posts. Please note that you are able to select which topics you can receive commenting opportunity updates on.
That's right.
Next, yep, there you go. Next week, we will do our monthly update of the U.S. Census Bureau's construction report, and we think we may have an expert from the U.S. Census Bureau calling in to share with us their methodology. If not, at the 2 p.m. next Friday, then we will post a video blog about it. And the other item is Joe Batia's presentation, which we've already talked about on Friday, September 25th, is going to be open to the entire education facilities industry. So if you're interested in calling in You can reach me at, that is Christine Fisher at christis@umich.edu. You can reach me by email to be added to that list. We would like to get a sense of how many would like to attend remotely, either through a regular conference call with a limit of 25 attendees, or whether we need to set up a regular webinar. Either way, we're hoping to have many people attend, both in person as well as in other formats. So please visit our website, and we have set this up so that you can learn about the most up-to-date information about the event. And that's all I have for this week. Thank you for calling in, Mike and Dennis. And from Mike, Anthony, and myself, thank you very much, and enjoy your weekend.